In today's show, I'm going to take a look at the super choke. So if you want to find out what makes the super choke super, stay tuned. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Scott, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Freestyle Judo. We have a lot on tap today, so let's get right with it. First of all, you see behind me a new background screen. It covers the gray dull wall. I will have that gray dull wall back from time to time, so don't worry. If you like that dull wall like I do, you'll see it again, but I'll probably be using this background screen quite a bit. So that's our new studio, I guess it were. So there we go. Hey, we got a lot on tap, so let's get right at it. The main subject today will be the super choke. As you saw in the little tease when I started the videos here, the show here, it is the super choke. You will find out later what the super choke is about 2/3 of the way through the show here. So keep watching. You'll find out what the super choke is, but don't get too excited. It's something a lot of people do. So it's just our way of doing it. But we're going to also, toward the back end of the show, I'm going to do a book review on a great book. I like reading books by good coaches who write good books about coaching, and this is certainly one of those books. So that's later in the show. We'll be looking at a very good book on coaching judo. So that's coming up too. But first, I want to talk about just something I've used for many years, and I've used it with great success, and I know other coaches do too. And these are club scrimmages. There are many tournaments. You can call them what you want. I've always just called them a scrimmage, and they work. And it's a great way to introduce new people to competition, especially little kids. You know, their first first impression of a competition, their first time doing a judo competition isn't in some big gym in some other place, and they're kind of scared. If you start them out right, I think, in club scrimmages, you know, they'll work up to where they can have more confidence when they get to a bigger stage. So it's a good way to start people out. Beginners out in judo. It's whatever sport. It could be any sport you could choose, but in this case it's judo. It's also great for your advanced athletes and students. They can try new things in these club tournaments. These club scrimmages. There's not a lot of pressure to win. It's try new things, and that's what we encourage in club scrimmages. We want them to win. We want to teach people to be competitive and try their best and try their hardest, but we also want to teach them to do good skills. So club scrimmages really bring that out, not just for beginners, but certainly for advanced people. They can try new things they might not have tried before. So that's another reason. And a third reason for club scrimmages, that a great advantage of having them, is you can train new referees. You know, here, especially you'll see on these videos, we have some 13-year-olds doing refereeing. And say, oh, that's too early to start. Not at a club scrimmage. They're under the supervision of senior coaches and referees. And if they make a mistake, the senior coaches will take over. But certainly they are running the match, and they're learning how to referee. So they're great places. These scrimmages are great places to teach new people to referee. Whether it's a teenager, an adult, it doesn't matter who it is. This is a great learning experience all the way around for both athletes and students, and as well as your students who you want to train to be judo referees. Refereeing is harder than it looks, and it's a good place to start to learn how to referee is right at that club scrimmage. So you'll see what we talk about here in a minute. So you'll see what I mean. First of all, before we get into the videos of it, I want to show a picture, a little still photo of early 1980s, and it's one of our welcome mat club scrimmages. And let's take a look at it right now. You'll see what I mean. In that photo, you saw my wife, Becky. She's kind of coordinating the kids there while I was up at the end of the line there. I think that was at a team tournament. We had a team tournament and in the dojo, and we were keeping score or something. So we're all up there. The kids were wondering who won the team tournament or whatever. I can't remember what the photo was about, but that's what was taking place. But And this leads to a good point. You can use any type of scoring system you want to do for a team. It could be a team tournament, like in that little photo. It could be get as many matches in. The kids can choose their own matches. You can use double elimination. I've never made it real structured. I made it where they get as many matches as possible. You can do a winner stay up tournament. All kinds of things you can do in these scrimmages, and they're just dynamite for developing your athletes and your referees. But again, getting back to the type of structure for it, you want it structured. Obviously, you want it to look somewhat obviously like a tournament, and so that the kids get that feel, the students get that feel of being in a real competition. But you also want them to feel at ease. We used to do something we call the Friday night fights, and I got that initially from when I was a kid starting judo. Every other Friday, it was a competitive little lineup tournament or something. I got the idea from my coach, Jerry Sweat. So, and we would do it Friday night fights, and you could have them anytime you want, but that's what we called it many years at Welcome Mat, because it was a judo night anyway, Friday night, so we just turned it into a competition. I did it about one a month, and the kids had a lot of fun. How I usually structured it was, say you're entered, and you come in and you just pick the guys you want to go with. It doesn't matter who they are. The only rule I had in that regard was you don't fight somebody more. If you beat them already twice, find somebody else. No need to keep beating the same kid over and over again. But we would do team tournaments. We would do matches tournaments where the kids would get as many matches as they could. Stay up until the winner finally lost a match. There are a lot of different ways you can do it. Just be creative with that, and it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I would give awards, sometimes not. I got a good deal from the AAU on medals and little ribbons, but and so we would give them out from time to time. And if I wanted a little more structure to it, but generally I didn't give awards. They were just getting a lot of matches. And, I encouraged that. I encouraged them to compete, and they weren't competing just so they'd get a trophy. And another thing that you'll see in one of the videos here that I'm going to show you, Kenny's giving out at the end of the tournament some Welcome Mat bracelets, those little rubberized hand bracelets. And they're great for club publicity and all that stuff. Has our website on it, everything like that. Those aren't participation trophies. I don't believe in participation trophies. A lot of times, like I said, if you would come and you want to pick a lot of matches, I had a deal where if you had 5 matches or you won 5 matches, you got a gold medal. And if you won 4 matches, you got a silver medal. And if you won 3 matches, you got a bronze medal. And so that would encourage kids to get a lot more matches. And, but they wouldn't get like 2 gold medals if they won 10 matches or something. They'd still get the 1 gold medal. But still, that was a good incentive for them to do it, to get a lot of matches in, and that's what the case. I mean, that was what I wanted them to do. So let's take a look at this first clip on how to start the club, or how to start the club scrimmage, how to get it going. I gave a little brief introductory, which just very brief on the rules. So it's a bit of that. So, and it starts about how Ken gets them going and how we start the matches and how we keep score. So let's take a look at that very first clip.
He's going to explain the rules of freestyle. He's like the pioneer of this rule set. That's the rule set we'll use today. It's Freestyle Judo.
Okay, hey guys. By the way, your coach was one of the best guys I ever coached. He really was. He's an outstanding judo player, and he knows many times junior national, high school national champion. So you've got a guy that knows his stuff. So pay attention to him. So what we're going to do today is freestyle rules. They're different than the IJF rules, so you compete in that as well. And in freestyle, it's a really good development thing. So you really do a lot of throws, a lot of ground fighting. It's great for developing your whole judo. So that's why we use these rules right here today. And count them.
Okay, go to the ground. We'll get one on the ground. Hajime!
Let's focus in on Mike Mills, the referee. He's coaching as your referees here in the scrimmage. He's helping the kids, and of course Ken Brink's off the side doing the same thing.
1 point blue.
And these little guys, this is their very first tournament. Their very first tournament. And this is why they're here in this club scrimmage. You can see Coach Sam's over here on the scoreboard, and he's got our official scoreboard on our whiteboard. That's what we do in a club scrimmage. And this is the gym here where we have our training for the Welcome Mat Club.
Time.
Boom. Set them out there.
So the kids are learning the formalities of the match, how to conduct, what they do when they get on the mat. This is where they learn this stuff. And see how he's giving them instructions on what to do and how to leave the mat and the whole thing.
Turn around, bow. Turn around, bow. Bow. And you step off the mat. Bow. Come here.
So that's part of the learning process here. You can't hear what he's saying to him, but he's a little. That's where coaching happens here, and that's where they learn.
Point blue.
I think that was a pretty good introductory on what a scrimmage is about. In the second clip, we're going to look at kind of how it's ideal for beginners and ideal for beginning referees. And you're going to see a young lady, Natalie, is going to referee her first judo match, and you will see it. So let's take a look at that second clip on refereeing. Okay, so we're here at our welcome mat scrimmage. Natalie is the official on the mat, and she's learning to referee. And we got the kids here in their pretty much their first tournament, and they're learning how to do judo. Good throw, good call. Okay, so part of the learning process is how they conduct the match, what they do after any pawn, how they bow on and off the mat, the calls she makes. This is all part of what we do in our scrimmages. Good, she's taking command as a referee. Good call, she points to the winner. And there they shake hands, and she makes sure they leave the mat, and they got to get them to bow. There we go, come back and bow. So they learn all that stuff at these scrimmages. That's part of the learning process. And I'll tell you what, Natalie did a whole lot better job in her first job at refereeing than I ever did. So congratulations to that young lady. She's only 13 and very mature, and she's already starting on a good career as not just a competitor, but as a referee and coach and all that other stuff. And so good for her. We had other kids referee as well, but I want to focus on, I just had, time to just focus on her in this particular case. So we did do that with other children as well, and other teenagers as well. And if we'd had some novice adults there who wanted to get into refereeing, that's certainly something you could do as well. So that'd be the time to do it. This last video just pretty much finishes up what it's about. Shows Ken. It's a very, very quick one. It just shows Ken finishing up, and at the end of the video. In this particular case was rather odd. We didn't have a lot of kids turn out for the competition. Don't know why. Maybe because school just started. It could be that. But he didn't have a large crowd. Normally he gets about 30 to 35, 40 kids for one of these events, and he just had quite a few numbers. Numbers were down this time, but nonetheless, everybody had a great time. So this last video clip will show you that, actually.
Any questions on the rules?
No.
Everybody have fun?
Yes.
All right. Got something for everybody? All right. Sister, for coming. For welcome at Judo Club bracelets.
Oh.
So Coach Brink is following up at the end of the little scrimmage. Gives everybody a welcome mat little wrist bracelet to wear to commemorate being here and doing their best.
Like in a caramel
Michael. Sit down, Mike. Colin. Cross your legs. Cross your legs.
Yeah,
I do have bigger signs here.
it ain't. My hand is captured.
Fun. All right. No questions? No. All right, we'll be doing another one of these next month. We will invite a couple other clubs if there is interest. All right. Practice Tuesday. That's all I got. We didn't dial in, so we won't bow out.
All right. Good job, everyone.
All right, way to go. So there you have it. That's what a club scrimmage looks like at Welcome Mat. Wasn't a big one. Not all the kids showed up, but it was still a great event. So that's how judo develops at the club level. So that's a look at a club scrimmage. And, I just think they're super for coaching. I've used them for years. The first time, I was a very young coach. The first time I ever used a club scrimmage was in 1970. And it just worked. I hit on the idea, again, taken from one of my first coaches, Jerry Sweat, and it just worked. And we would hold at least one a month. And it really did prepare my kids for competitive judo, but also it was a good outlet for the kids who didn't want to compete, in regional or national events. They had an opportunity to show their stuff. And so scrimmages are great, and I recommend using them all the time. So use them every month if you can. Okay, let's turn our attention to the super choke, okay, the super choke. And it's Jigoku Jume. Okay, that's what it is. Jigoku Jume means hell strangle. And when you have it done to you, it lives up to its name. It hurts like hell. It is a great strangle. And this particular variation of it or application of it, years ago, Kenny Brink was a young kid learning it, and I was teaching it to him as a young, 11, 12, whatever, when you start teaching strangles to your students. And so we were doing it, and he was pretty good at it. He liked it. And at one point he said, "Hey, this is a super choke." And the kids started calling it super choke. I started calling it super choke. So it's been called super choke for many years, at least at Welcome Mat. If you don't want to call it super choke, I don't care. That's what we call it. But it is Jigoku Jume, and it is a super choke. And Jigoku Jume is an interesting strangle. It's always been one of my favorites. In this particular application, a number of my athletes have done it well. I had some good success with it, but certainly my athletes did it better than me. And the way I show this particular way, the setup, I think you'll like it as well. If you don't do it already, I think you'll like doing this. But the defining feature, to me, of a Jigoku Jume, of a hell strangle, is to use your leg or foot and placing it or driving it over the back of your opponent's neck or head to do two things. You control his head better and control his whole body better, his whole upper body, and you also apply more pressure to the strangling action, to the choking action. So it has two functions. And that's, to me, the defining feature of Jigoku Jume, that leg or foot on the back of the opponent's head. There are a lot of ways to do Jigoku Jume, not just the way that you're going to see in this video, these three videos, but these are pretty efficient ways to do it. So let's look at the first video, and it covers the basics using the judo gi, the jacket, and the belt. So you'll see it's the basic application of it. And the video was done, Derek Darling was doing this with Mike Pennington, coaching at John Saylor's annual Shingitai training camp. And it was such a good presentation of it. This is the one that I wanted to use for this, to show you this. So here it is, the basic application of Jigoku Jume, or the super choke. And the guy named Super Choke, years ago, Kenny Brink just named it the Super Choke because he was like a teenage kid. We were working on it. And he said, "Man, this is a super choke." And it just stuck. So we've always called it the Super Choke at Welcome Mat. But it is a variation of Jigoku Jume. One more time, I'll get out of the way and spin it on speed. That effective. All right? Give it a
Grab
try.
her high right behind the ear, okay? Get your thumb in there, drop your elbow, and rotate to the side, okay? Now that's the start of the choke. Jam your knee in, grab the belt, okay? Don't worry so much, it has to be a perfect grip, just get a hold of the thing, okay? And then step over, hit your hip, and pull up on that belt. Get a hold of it. Rotate in, knee in the hole, grab the belt, step over the head, hit your hip, and pull.
Now, a variation, Kenny Brink used to be coached by John out at the Olympic Center. He will do the same thing, but instead of grabbing the belt, he'll often grab the near ankle and pull up. okay, or the far ankle, whatever he can get, but he usually got the near ankle. So he'd come there and he'd grab with his left hand the near ankle and lift and catch it. So that's a good variation. Those all hurt, okay? Sean Watson, another guy who trained out with John, one of my guys, we're not going to do it too hard, but he would do what he called, I hope I don't offend anyone, the ass jack, okay? And he would come in and he would grab through the middle, grab what he could, okay? And as he was sitting through, he would lift the guy up like that, up that. And an interesting story, that very choke there, Sean did choke a guy cold with that from that position, and the guy was up in the air just like you saw Mike, and he just went limp. He was on top and he just went limp, and the referee called a pawn. It was a judo tournament, and that actually happened. So it's a very nasty choke. It's you know.
Sean's term for it too.
Yeah, that was Sean's. Yeah, Sean Watson did name that, and if you know.
Scary, he's a cop now in Honolulu.
Yeah, he's a police officer, so you know. So those are all variations, but the belt one is a good one to learn, and we show that as the basic way to do it. And you notice how he's rolling, where Derek's knee points, that's where Mike's head goes. He goes in that direction.
Don't go back.
Do not fall backwards on your hips. That makes a very weak position. Like with the other no-gi version, it's a weak position. You don't want to do that. Okay. I really can't add anything to what Derek said in that first clip there, but the second clip, I want to add some points that, you know, I didn't get. I was doing the camera work on that first clip, and I didn't get the shots I wanted to. So the second clip shows some specific things. They'll show three main things. They will show, the second clip will show how to get your knee in the hole, as I call it, fill a hole with your knee. You'll see that, and how to control him better with that knee position in there. And secondly, when you tip him in the direction you want to do the strangle, to, you know, toward the direction of your knee when you roll to your side to apply that to where your knee points. That's the second aspect. And the third aspect is to use the belt or use your other hand to actually lift him up and into the action of the strangle. And you'll see what we do. This either use the belt, or it could be using his legs, foot, grab down the middle, grab his crotch, whatever it may be, you're lifting him. So these three elements are shown in this second video. So let's take a look at that one right now. Because what Mike wants to do with his right knee, if you guys can come around here and see this, okay, start again like this. Start standing. All right. So when Mike starts this, he's going to drive that knee, his right knee. He's going to fill that hole, that space between Derek's elbow and his knee. Okay, come up again, Mike. This is kind of a key point a lot of guys miss. It's here is what Mike wants to drive that knee and fill that space with his knee. Now that's a key point. And why? Because it gives Mike a really good strong base here and puts him in the right angle. He wants to be sideways to Derek here. So now what Mike's going to do, he's going to drive his knee over Derek's head. And as he does that, he's going to sit on his left butt, on the left side of his butt, and he's going to roll in the direction of Derek's head. When Mike's knee points, that's the way he's going to take Derek. Okay? Come back again. So when he comes here, and he stops, and he drives that knee over. Now, when Mike puts his knee out, see, that's the direction Derek's head is going. And he lifts Derek up. There are a couple of ways to lift him up. You're literally lifting him up on top of his head. Now, when you do this, you come to the side there, he does all this stuff. Now, let's look at this hand, okay? Now, here's your strangling hand. This is your kind of your lifting hand and control hand. Now, you can grab the belt and lift up. Let's show that one, where you grab the belt and lift up. And you just lift up like that into the direction. See how you're lifting? Okay? That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is doing the same thing there, but to take an ankle. Now, when he came over here, he overhooked the ankle here, and he lifted Derek up into that direction there. Either way works really well. They both are very efficient ways of doing it. You can either grab the belt, and you can grab there are other ways to grab too, but these are the pretty good ones to start with. So let's look at that one more time. So Mike's knocked him out. He loops it around. He comes in right. His right knee is in the hole. He fills that space. Left leg over. Now, in this case, he's grabbing the belt. Okay, and when he's going to roll on his left hip in the direction of where his knee points, and that's the direction he takes Derek. He literally lifts him and plants Derek up, and he's using by laying into that left leg like that, it adds so much pressure on the back of Derek's neck. It really just chokes the snot out of you. I hope I explained that well to you, that these are key points in doing the Jigoku Jume from this application in the super choke. So think about that, and when you practice them, teach them, those 3 points I think should be stressed when you're teaching or doing this strangle. All right, let's look now at the third clip. The third video will cover no gi version, and although in the video the guys will be in judo gis, but Derek is teaching it again, and he's showing how to do it without using the judo gi, the jacket in any way, or the belt, to use a no gi situation. And you'll see also how we apply this with Hadaka Jume, another strangle. It's a great strangle. It's Hadaka means no clothing. Means you don't use the jacket to choke. It means naked, basically, I think. So it's the naked choke or naked strangle. So you'll see we show 2 ways to do it. One is using the square grip, or you could use a gable grip or any type of a grip where you are clasping your hands together with control. Or in the second version is the older version, the figure 4 variation of Hadaka Jume. And you'll see what we mean here in a minute. Let me get that going, and let's watch that without further ado.
I'm going to control the head, come through, catch my hands together in a square grip or a gable grip, okay? And again, this is because everybody can do it this way, okay? I'm underneath the armpit, I come right up, and instead of grabbing a gi or anything, I grab my hands.
So your right hand is underneath the armpit, his left armpit.
Right.
Yeah.
This foot comes over the head, and as I move sideways, okay, I'm going to catch, didn't even need it that time.
So he would drive his right knee between, I'll come to the camera there so the video, see, your right knee would be there. And when he would do the choke, he would just pick it up, and that's that back version of the choke.
Then catch, okay, foot comes over the back of the head, I lay down onto my hip, and as I roll him sideways, I'm going to catch right over his back or his belt line.
Now you see why they call it Jigoku Jume. It really does hurt like hell.
Additionally, what we can also do to make it a little bit tighter is we're going to go for a figure 4 variation. Okay, so again, we come through here, come back up, catch the figure 4 grip, okay? Keep your head down. That makes it much easier. A lot of you are going to have trouble grabbing your bicep. If you do, grab the inside of your forearm. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, normally if it was just a darce or a head and arm variation of the choke, that wouldn't help too much. But in this case, we've got the legs assisting. So if you can't grab the bicep, grab the inside of your forearm. Okay, and I'm going to do that to make it a little bit nicer on Eric here. Foot over as I roll sideways. Catch. Okay, again, don't roll back, don't try and kick your foot up first, because that would mean it's a bendy type of move. You have to be bendy and flexible in the hips to get that up there. Everybody can go like this and then put their foot like that, right? That's all I'm doing. Okay? So once you get that foot over his head, okay, we move sideways and then that foot just comes up right there. That's all you got to do. It's like sitting in a chair except you're sideways.
And what you don't want to do is flip him over onto his back, because then you lose control of the choke.
Right, right. You can finish from there, but it's way easier with his ass up in the air. Okay? All right, let's give it a shot.
Give it a try. Good. I really can't add any more to about the super choke to what you just saw in the video there. I thought that Derek did a good job teaching the no-gi application of it. Again, he was in a gi, but you can see he was doing a no-gi application of it. It is it's a super choke. It's a great choke, and there are a lot of different variations of it. You can do it when somebody's flat on their belly. We were showing it when they were in a turtle position on elbows and knees. But again, there are different applications of it. I highly recommend it. I've been doing it with my athletes for many years, and I'm sure a number of you has done the same. So, and again, like any of our videos, adapt it to make it work for you. If you see something like, well, I'd rather do it this way, then do it that way if it works for you, by all means. And that's how we. It's good functional coaching. That's the point of what I'm trying to do here. And speaking of functional coaching, I want to get to a book review of a great book about functional coaching, about successful coaching. I love books by good coaches, by very good coaches and great coaches who tell you how they coach. And this is a great book by a great coach, and it is Building Warriors, West Point Judo's Road to the National Championship by Hector Morales. There it is. I highly recommend this book. It's 179 pages. It is printed and published by Peak Mental Game, Optimal Performance Education, LLC. And you can see up here, there is the Gmail address you can go to find out more about the book. I do not know the price. I'm sorry, but it is whatever you pay, it's worth it's worth it. It's a good book, and Hector's done a tremendous job. He holds a PhD, and he's also a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. So he built West Point Academy's judo program to where they really upset San Jose State and took the national title, I think, more than once, certainly. And so he outlines how he did it, and that I just love it. And it's so let's get into let's just without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the book, some points that I got out of it, and I think you might get out of it too. But again, read the book for yourself. Here's some high points. I'm just looking at my notes, and we're going to cover them here. One of the first things that he talked about was judo is a blue-collar sport, and boy, is it ever. Judo is a blue-collar sport. We don't get rich or famous doing judo. We sure don't. But we do it for its love. And I could say the same thing for Sambo and some other sports too. It's not an elitist activity, even though it's a highly complex, probably the most complex form of physical education invented. And certainly from a sporting aspect, there's so many technical aspects of it that just it keeps you up at night. And obviously it has Hector as well, because he wrote a great book about this stuff. But it's a blue-collar sport. I mean, you got to get down and dirty, and I don't mean dirty, break the rules, but you got to expend a lot of sweat and a lot of effort. And it keeps you honest. It keeps you humble. It really does. So I think that's what he means when it's a blue-collar sport. At least that's what it meant to me. Another thing he talked about was that judo must be functional. At least your coaching must be functional. Certainly judo must be functional. And if you want to develop athletes, everybody's different. That's why I say coaching is an art and a science. There's certainly a science to coaching, but the art comes in and you're working with human beings. And everybody, you work with them a little differently. And he points that out in the book very well. So you make it functional. Like Morris Allen said to me years ago, make your judo work for you, make the technique work for you. And Hector certainly is a believer in how to do that. And I really applaud him for bringing that out and how he's done it. And it's done exceedingly well, obviously, and how he worked with different athletes in different ways to get the best result for that athlete. And it's great stuff. Another one he talked about as far as competitive judo, and competitive in any type of competition, he talks about the willingness of the athlete to take advantage of his opponent, of his opponent's weakness. They say, oh, that's mean, that's bad. No, that's competition. That's what people do to go to get a job so somebody else doesn't get that job. That's when you want to win a judo match or a sambo match or whatever it is. It's competition. And to understand competition, you have to be realistic about it. And part of your coaching is to teach your athletes, do what it takes to win under the rules. He points that out quite clearly here. But do what it takes to do what you need to do to win. And you have to have that willingness to do it before you can do that. You have to be willing to do what it takes to win. And it harkens back to something I've talked about for years. A great quote by an old Western, the old West Bat Masterson, who it was. He was a marshal, and some dime novelist was, interviewing him back in the 1870s about what it takes to be the one who wins in a gunfight. And so this guy was probing him about what it takes. And Masterson is reputed to have said, he said, well, it's not the one more accurate, and it's not the one who's faster. It's the one who's more willing. And he meant who's more willing to shoot the other guy, more willing to do what it takes to win the gunfight, the duel. And while this isn't a gunfight, it certainly is a duel, and it's under a set of rules. And that's what Hector points out here. And that's one of the big points I got from the book is, as a coach, you've got to teach your students what it takes to win and have that willingness to do what it takes to win. And that's a big point in this book. I love it. I just love it. He talked about training hard and training smart, something that I certainly have agreed with for many years. And I think every coach believes the same thing, who's a good coach, that just because somebody trains hard, it doesn't mean he's training smart. And so he talks about, have a system, have a method. And I think that's really awfully smart on his part to discuss about have that method, because that helps you train smart and helps them train harder. So if you have a system, every coach has his own system, he points out. I believe the same thing. And if you're comfortable with that system and it's working for you and working for your athletes, it takes time to develop that system, develop that methodology. And we all have a different one. We're all different people. So there's certain principles we're always going to follow about good drill training and management of time and all that stuff, but you got to have your own method. And he talks about that. And I really think it's a key point in the book as well. He talks about a variety of training to make it interesting. Practice is practice. It's going to be hard. If you're interested, it's going to be hard, and you know that coming into it. But as a coach, Hector points out, and I certainly believe the same thing, I want to make it interesting enough that is, if it's not enjoyable, it should be enjoyable. It should be something they look forward to doing and they want to do. And they have choices in life. They can go to the library. They can go do this or get a job or play another sport. Well, we want those kids, or whoever it may be, we want them back on the mat to train with us, and Hector talks about that. And a variety of things. Drill training, do different drills. Do what it takes to keep them interested, keep them progressing, and to have them improve. And that's really what it's about. So I think that's a point that he brought out, which I think is a very astute point, and it's a great point. Another thing he points out that I really love is never feel comfortable. And like the old phrase, stay hungry. You always stay hungry. You're never rest on your laurels, okay? And don't let your athletes rest on their laurels too. And to do that, it takes a good degree of humility to do that. You've got to keep improving. You've got to keep it. There's something you've got to keep improving on. You will. And that doesn't mean take the joy out of winning, take the joy out of participating in the event. He's not talking about that. And neither am I in my own coaching, by the way. But always keep in mind that, you can always improve. There's something that you didn't do right last time that you can do right this time, or that you did right last time. You want to keep doing it, so improve on that. And I think that harkens back to something Kashiwazaki, the great world Sambo and Judo champion, said in one of his books. I believe it was one of his books. I might have heard it on video, but he was talking about how even if you've won the tournament the previous year, you're really never the defending champion. You are, but you're the guy with the bullseye on his back. You're the guy who's got to be better than last year, because everybody saw what you did last year to win. And so you better keep improving. So if you won a tournament once, doesn't mean you're going to win it again. Every year you got to go back and re-win that tournament, whether it's a world championship, a national collegiate championship like Hector's talking about with his West Point cadets, whatever it may be. You got to prove yourself every time you step on the mat. And Hector points this out in a very, very well said way. So I would highly recommend his book for that reason as well. But there are a lot of nuggets of wisdom in this book. There really are. And it's, like I said, it's 179 pages. It's written from the heart. but it's also written from the brain. And like I said, Hector has a PhD in this field, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to kinesiology and training. When he talks about the principles of overload training and nutrition, rest, all these things that combine that a coach should think about and manage for his athletes so they are successful. So I'll tell you what, it's a great book, and I appreciate Hector writing it. And like I said, I love books written by good coaches about how to coach well. And this certainly fits the bill in that, and I would highly recommend. Let me hold it up one more time here. Can you see it there? It is my book, Hector Morales, Building Warriors, West Point Judo's Road to the National Championship. And he's talking about winning the National Collegiate Championships with the West Point cadets. And so he did a fabulous job doing that. So congratulations to Hector for that, and also for this fabulous book. And I hope you read it too. I really enjoyed it. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this show. There is one more thing I do want to mention. It's one more plug for our upcoming JudoCon, November 2nd and 3rd here in Kansas City. You can see up here where to go to our online store. Still not too late to register for that. We got John Saylor, Anne Maria DeMars. We've got some other great people coming in. A lot of good stuff. By the way, we're also having an expert come in on teaching people with ADD and learning disabilities. So she's going to be doing a segment on that. So if you're a coach, you might want to come to that as well. A lot of technical stuff too, a lot of technical training. We're also going to do a Friday evening clinic on leg locks. By popular demand. I know it's not judo. I know it's not part of the rules of judo, but we are going to be doing a fun leg lock training clinic. So if you want to learn some more about leg locks at JudoCon, we're going to have it. So we got that as well. But again, I didn't take any question and answer in this segment of this show because I wanted to review Hector's book, and we talked a little bit about the scrimmages. I hope you have scrimmages at your club. I think they'll really help your guys on your team, guys and gals. And also we talked about the super choke. Again, like I said, with everything I show here, adapt it to make it work for you. We want it functional. We want it to be effective. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.